Namaste, Dandavat Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, the Status Quo, Chapter 9, Text 6. Tavadvayam Dravina Dehasurnitatam Stokasvraha Paribhavo Vipulas Chalobha Tavanmametya Sad Avagraha Artimulam Yavannate Nirgam Abhayam Pravrinita Loka. O my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all the material anxieties. They are always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. They are filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia, and they avariciously base their undertakings on the perishable conceptions of my and mind. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of such anxieties. Purport. One may question, how can one always think of the Lord in regard to his name, fame, quality, etc., if one is embarrassed by thoughts of family affairs? Everyone in the material world is full of thoughts about how to maintain his family, how to protect his wealth, how to keep pace with friends and relatives, etc. Thus, he is always in fear and lamentation, trying to keep up with the status quo. In answer to this question, this verse spoken by Brahmā is very appropriate. A pure devotee of the Lord never thinks of himself as the proprietor of his home. He surrenders everything unto the supreme control of the Lord, and thus he has no fear for maintaining his family or protecting the interests of his family. Because of this surrender, he no longer has any attraction for wealth. Even if there is attraction for wealth, it is not for sense enjoyment, but for service of the Lord. A pure devotee may be attracted to accumulating wealth, just like an ordinary man, but the difference is that a devotee acquires the money for service of the Lord, whereas the ordinary man acquires money for his sense enjoyment. Thus, the acquisition of wealth by a devotee is not a source of anxiety, as is the case for a worldly man. And because the pure devotee accepts everything in the sense of serving the Lord, poisonous teeth of accumulation of wealth are extracted. If a snake has its poison removed and bites a man, there is no fatal effect. Similarly, wealth accumulated in the cause of the Lord has no poisonous teeth, and the effect is not fatal. A pure devotee is never entangled in material worldly affairs, even though he may remain in the world like an ordinary man. Text 7. Navenate hata diyo babhata prashangat sarvasubho pasamanad vimukendriyaye korvanti kama shukalesha lavayadina lobha vibhuta manaso kushalani shasvat. O my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all-auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate and are also bereft of good sense. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratification for a very little while. Purport. The next question is why people are against such auspicious activities as chanting and hearing the glories of the pastimes of the Lord, which can bring total freedom from the cares and anxieties of material existence. The only answer to this question is that they are unfortunate because of supernatural control, due to their offensive activities performed simply for the sake of sense gratification. The Lord's pure devotees, however, take compassion upon such unfortunate persons, and in a missionary spirit try to persuade them in the line of devotional service. Only by the grace of pure devotees can such unfortunate men be elevated to the position of transcendental service. Text 8. Tridhatu bir ima muhur arhadyamana. Sitoshna bhatta varshire. Itare tarachcha. Kamagina chutarusa chasudur bharena. Sampasyato mana uru pramasidhate me. O great actor, my lord, all these poor creatures are constantly perplexed by hunger, thirst, severe cold, secretion, and bile, attacked by coughing winter, blasting summer, rains, and many other disturbing elements, and overwhelmed by strong sex urges and indefeatable anger. I take pity on them, and I am very much aggrieved for them. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord like Brahmā and persons in his disciplic succession are always unhappy to see the perplexities of the conditioned souls who are suffering the onslaughts of the threefold miseries which pertain to the body and mind, to the disturbances of material nature, and to many other such material disadvantages. Not knowing adequate measures for relieving such difficulties, suffering persons sometimes pose themselves as leaders of the people, and the unfortunate followers are put into further disadvantages under so-called leadership. This is like the blind man's leading another blind man to fall into a ditch. Therefore, unless the devotees of the Lord take pity on them and teach them the right path, their lives are hopeless failures. The devotees of the Lord who voluntarily take the responsibility of raising the foolish materialistic sense enjoyers are as confidential to the Lord as Lord Brahmā. Text 9. Yavat prataktavam idam atmana indriyarta maya balam bhagavato jana isha pasyat tavanna samshritir aso prati sankrameta yartapi dukkha nivaham vahati kriyarta. O my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, he cannot get out of the entanglement of material miseries, being influenced by your external energy. Purport. The whole trouble of the living entity in material existence is that he has an independent conception of life. He is always dependent on the rules of the Supreme Lord in both conditioned and liberated states, but by the influence of the external energy, the conditioned soul thinks himself independent of the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. His constitutional position is to dovetail himself with the desire of the Supreme Will, but as long as he does not do so, he is sure to drag on in shackles of material bondage. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.55, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parta manogatan. He has to give up all sorts of plans manufactured by mental concoction. The living entity has to dovetail himself with the Supreme Will. That will help him get out of the entanglement of material existence. Text 10. Anya pratartha karana nishi nihasayan anamano ratadiya chanabagna nidra daivahatartha rachana rishayopi deva yusmat prashanga vimuka iha samsaranti. Such non-devotees engage their senses in very troublesome and extensive work, and they suffer insomnia at night because their intelligence constantly breaks their sleep with various mental speculations. They are frustrated in all their various plans by supernatural powers. Even great sages, if they are against your transcendental topics, must rotate in this material world. Purport. As described in the previous verse, people who have no taste for the devotional service of the Lord are occupied in material engagements. Most of them engage during the daytime in hard physical labor. Their senses are engaged very extensively in troublesome duties in the gigantic plants of heavy industrial enterprise. The owners of such factories are engaged in finding a market for their industrial products, and the laborers are engaged in extensive production involving huge mechanical arrangements. Factory is another name for hell. At night, hellishly engaged persons take advantage of wine and women to satisfy their tired senses, but they are not even able to have sound sleep because of the various mental speculative plans constantly interrupting their sleep. Because they suffer from insomnia, sometimes they feel sleepy in the morning for lack of sufficient rest. By the arrangement of supernatural power, even the great scientists and thinkers of the world suffer frustration of their various plans and thus rot in the material world birth after birth. A great scientist may make discoveries in atomic energy for the quick destruction of the world and may be awarded the best prize in recognition of his service or disservice. But he also has to undergo the reactions of his work by rotating in the cycle of repeated births and deaths under the superhuman law of material nature. All these people who are against the principle of devotional service are destined to rotate in this material world without fail. This verse particularly mentions that even sages who are averse to the principles of devotional service to the Lord are also condemned to undergo the terms of material existence. Not only in this age, but formerly also, there were many sages who tried to invent their own systems of religion without reference to devotional service to the Supreme Lord. But there cannot be any religious principle without devotional service to the Lord. The Supreme Lord is the leader of the entire range of living entities, and no one can be equal to or greater than him. Even the Lord's impersonal feature and all-pervading localized feature cannot be on an equal level with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, there cannot be any religion or system of genuine philosophy for the advancement of the living entities without the principle of devotional service. The impersonalists, who make much trouble in penance and austerity for self-liberation, may approach the impersonal Brahmajyoti, but ultimately, because of not being situated in devotional service, they glide down again to the material world to undergo another term of material existence. This is confirmed as follows. In Yaravindaksha Vimuktamaninas Svayasta Bhavad Avishuddha Buddhaya Aruya Kritrena Param Andam Tataha Tantyoda Nadrita Yusmad Angraya. Persons who are falsely under the impression of being liberated without devotional service to the Lord may reach the goal of Brahmajyoti, but because of their impure consciousness and for want of shelter in the Vaikuntha Lokas, such so-called liberated persons again fall down into material existence. Therefore, no one can manufacture any system of religion without the principle of devotional service to the Lord. As we find in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the initiator of religious principles is the Lord himself. In Bhagavad Gita also, we find that the Lord condemns all forms of religion other than that which entails the process of surrendering unto the Supreme. Any system which leads one to devotional service of the Lord and nothing else is actually religion or philosophy. In the 6th canto, we find the following statements of Yamaraj, the controller of all unfaithful living entities. Dharmam tu sakshad bhagavat pranitam navayavadvarashayo napideva asidha mukya aswara manusha kutonu vidihadhara charanadya svayambhu narada Svayambhu Nara Daha Shambhuhu Kumara Kapilo Manuhu Pralado Janako Bhismo Valir Vayashikir Vayam Vadasaite Vijanimo Dharmam Bhagavatam Bhakta Guyam Vishuddham Durabudoham Yam Gyat Davratam Yam Gyat Vamratam Ashnute. The principles of religion are initiated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and no one else, including the sages and demigods, can manufacture any such principles. Since even great sages and demigods are unauthorized to inaugurate such principles of religion, what to speak of others, the so-called mystics, demons, human beings, Vidyadharas, and Charanas living in the lower planets. 12 personalities, Brahma, Narada, Lord Shiva, Kumar, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janaka Maharaj, Bhisma, Bali, Shukadev Goswami, and Yamaraj, are agents of the Lord, authorized to speak and propagate the principles of religion. The principles of religion are not open to any ordinary living entity. They are just to bring the human being onto the platform of morality. Non-violence, etc., are necessary for misguided persons, because unless one is moral and non-violent, one cannot understand the principles of religion. To understand what is actually religion is very difficult, even if one is situated in the principles of morality and non-violence. It is very confidential, because as soon as one is conversant with the real religious principles, he is at once liberated to the eternal life of bliss and knowledge. Therefore, one who is not situated in the principles of devotional service to the Lord should not pose himself as a religious leader of the innocent public. The Ishopanishad emphatically forbids this nonsense in the following mantra: Andam tamaha pravishanti yesambutim upashate tato bhuya ivate tamo yau sambutyam rataha. A person in ignorance of the principles of religion, who therefore does nothing in the matter of religion, is far better than a person who misguides others in the name of religion, without reference to the factual religious principles of devotional service. Such so-called leaders of religion are sure to be condemned by Brahmā and other great authorities. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 11 on Monday. Jai Am Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Our glory to the assembled devotees, our glory to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shringapali Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai. Ganga Mayi Yamuna Mayi Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. Sham Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai. Scientific Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari 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 Bo. Jai Srimati Umadevi Dasi Ki Jai.
I will take it.